Bush Winter Park Library Theater. I want to welcome you guys by show of hands who is a Winter Park resident. Okay, so majority of the folks in here are Winter Park residents. This, just so you know, is offered to the community. So we have some online folks who are tuning in from home. So welcome. This is a Central Florida panel. So we have representatives from City of Orlando here in Orange County. And, we'll get into intros in a bit before that, but I have a 10-15 minute slideshow, maybe less, just to give you some basics about Winter Park and recycling, just so you know as a resident what to expect when you're living here and the ordinances and rules that apply to you. So let's just get into it. And before I start, though, I want you guys to silence your phones just to be respectful. Um, Hold on. Keep it uh, timely for questions. So we'll have a Q&A at the end. That'll be like 10-15 minutes. So please hold questions to the end. And when you do have questions, just be considerate of other people's questions. We are here to answer all questions. I could give you my card. Everybody else has a card as well. So if there's multiple questions and it's ticking along, we'll ask you to email them for more support. And then obviously to be respectful, raise your hands, no calling out, all that. All right, so we are in Winter Park. We have some recycling guidelines. If you weren't aware, you can scan this great tool. It's called What Goes Where tool. It's a recollect tool that a lot of other city municipalities have on their website. City of Orlando is one of them, and Orange County. We all adopted this tool a couple of years ago, and it's actually pretty cool because not only will it tell you what goes where, like as in what goes in your bin, but it also, if you put your address in there, it'll tell you on a nice calendar when you put your recycling out, when you put your garbage out, and you can print that. And you can put it on your refrigerator, remind you. I do get lots of calls a lot. Mostly new residents that move here, but other residents that maybe, get confused or forgot, and that's all good. So it's all on our website. We have a plethora of information on our website that goes into lots of detail about our guidelines. So we advise you to go onto there. But if there's ever a question you have, you can call us at that number and email, and we should answer you within 1 to 2 days. We're pretty responsive. This is for anything like missed pickups. We also post that on our Facebook. If you're not aware, we do have a Facebook. There's a QR code on our table out there, and we'll get to a page in a second which you can scan. And we also have the recollect tool, which is there's an option there where you could select I have a missed pickup. So curbside collection, you have two containers. You have a garbage receptacle and a blue container. They look the same and they're 64-gallon. I believe you can request a 90-gallon. You can request this by calling us at the utility. You call us and we can transfer you to utility and they can add that to your bill. You can if you need another bin or if you need a replacement, we also replace bins. Waste Pro will give you a new cart if you need it or replace a lid. We had a lot of questions about yard waste lids. Those bins actually we don't give out anymore. They were the original containers that Winter Park had long ago before we went to a recycling program. And so if those lids are broken, we can fix the lid, but we can't fix the cart. So, and also we don't have any replacements for you. So, ask a neighbor, or you could purchase your own yard waste container by going to Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace, any hardware store, really. Or if you don't have to put it in a container, you could put it in a bag. We prefer paper bag or bundle it. Those instructions are on the website. Again, you go to citywinterpark.org, natural resources sustainability, and there's a waste section specific with these guidelines. You need to bundle it. You can't do more than 3 cubic yards, which is about the bed of a foot of the back of your truck. If you have more than that, you have to put a special request. And again, you would call us and we could put that request in for you. Or you can go onto our website. Waste Pro has a specific ticket form you can fill out to request those. Lots of information, but big one, which we'll get into in a second. But household hazardous waste does not go in your recycling bin. Household hazardous waste is identified as any chemicals, um, flammants, sorry, retardants, recycling waste, anything that recharges that could catch on fire. We do not want that in your bin. This is specific for a lot of safety reasons, more so for the drivers that are helping pick up your trash. Those rechargeable devices catch on fire frequently, and those trucks do end up exploding. It's really scary for the driver, and it's also unfortunately pushes your waste route back. So we don't want that. So also we don't want that ending up in the landfill because those chemicals end up into our waterways, which then end up into our own bodies. So we really, really want to be respectful of the environment and our own public health. So next. Speaking of household hazardous waste, we provide two of these drop-off events a year. Right by Katie Way Trail by the pool. You have to be a Winter Park resident. So if you're not a resident, please don't try to come. I'm sorry, I'm going to push you away. But thankfully, we have two landfills that our residents can access, Orange County and Seminole County landfills, and they're open to the public Monday through Saturday. It's free of charge. It's only 30 minutes. It's not that bad. It's actually really fun. I love the landfill. If you haven't gone, they provide tours all the time. It's so cool. Um, not that I go often, but I'm just saying, like, it's just a really cool experience. And you don't have to be, tied to this one day a year. I emphasize this because your tax dollars pay for this. So it's a really great opportunity for you folks to participate in. But since it's Saturday, please come out. We have wonderful staff that will greet you at your car. You don't have to get it out at all. We will take everything out of your car. Our vendors, Urban Recycling, is in the house. He's one of their vendors, and he will take any e-waste out of your car and put it out into a bin, and that will get sorted and recycled effectively. Our other vendors is a clothing textile vendor that donates to local donation, um, whatchamacallit, the word's escaping me, but thrift stores in the area. And then we also have Waste Pro that works with us to get our household hazardous waste. They work with a third party to recycle that effectively. So, there's a household hazardous waste facility. Hold on.
Just to make sure folks don't misunderstand, at the landfills, there is a separate location that is a household hazardous waste drop-off facility. It doesn't go into the landfill. They keep it separate from going into the landfill. But sometimes that I just want to make sure there's no misunderstanding on that little piece.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yes. So speaking of, excuse me, we have another great opportunity for Winter Park residents to take advantage of. We offer this twice a year as well. It's a spring bulk pickup service. So, usually you'd have to request this ahead of time. I know Waste Pro sometimes will be nice and, pick it up without a request. But for anything bulky, you are supposed to put in a request. This is just to be nice, not only for Waste Pro, so they can schedule that effectively, but it also doesn't, push back on our routes because sometimes they have to order a different truck. And if they don't order a truck and they pick it up, it will, take room in their current truck and they'll have to reroute a different truck. So really put those orders in. They're really important. But the spring cleanup is happening the first two Thursdays and Fridays of May. So first and second and May 8th and 9th. And they are dependent upon where you live in the city. So we do have a map that lives on the Waste Pro Winter Park site. When I say this, this means that the Waste Pro has a website that we have linked onto our Winter Park, citywinterpark.org site. And you can see a map. Well, it shows you the map of City Winter Park, and you can look at these roads. And so anything north of that would be your area. Anything south of that would be that May 8th and 9th. So look forward to that. Bulky items, what does that mean? That means furniture, refrigerators, big tables, couches, mattresses, anything you can't fit in a bin, really, that would need to be a special truck that picks it up to bring it to the landfill. This is a great service, so please take advantage. I do want to emphasize, though this is a great service to have, we have a lot of donation sites in the area like Mustard Seed. They will take your mattresses and recycle them. A lot of people don't know about them. They're a great organization. They've been in Orlando for a very long time. I'm sure other places do them. If you don't know of any, please let me know. We'd love to shout out to them. There's also, marketplace, basic marketplace that you could resell things online, or there's a lot of free pages, so you could offer that on your curb and just post it, and a lot of people actually will pick it up. You'll be surprised. So try to do that first before you throw the landfill. You could also resurface them, change it, get creative. There's so many opportunities before throwing it away. Lots of college students in the area, they would probably love some furniture. People starting out, relocating the area. There's so many purposes before putting in the landfill. I'll take your furniture too, whatever. So let me know. I just moved. Just want to go through the history really quickly. So, 1907, I believe, don't quote me on this, plastic was invented. Uh, Great year for that. The false industry is booming. We're making all these plastic things. We're just pumping it out. We're still pumping it out. As we know, we have, the fossil fuel industry, the oil industry. They're directly correlated to make plastics. You can't make plastic without oil. It's sad, but that is what it is. Um, 1990, just jump real far ahead in the 90s here. This is actually an article that we found in our files when City Winter Park actually started recycling. This was just, the dual stream method. It was two, if anybody remembers this, it was two sorting bins. You would sort your paper and your cardboard from your glass and your plastic. It was really simplistic. It was easy. It was all good. Everything was fine. Florida in 2008, the state set a goal for 75% waste diversion. That is a very ambitious goal. In 2020, sorry, 2008, they were starting to think about goals, and then by 2020, it was set. In 2012, they met 40%. 2014, it increased to 50%. In 2016, it was still not met. So you see, we're having an issue here. Recycling is really hard. It's really complex. Lots of different plastics. We have numbers 1 through 7. What goes in what? Can they really recycle it? There's a lot of confusion. So then dual stream became single streams, adds the other layer of complexity to the situation. And now, instead of two bins, you have one big bin, and you put all these plastics in one bin, and you hope that it gets recycled. So now, in 2018, we get China saying, we don't want your plastics because they're not being sorted, and you got to figure that out. So that put America in a, oh, what do we do moment. So ever since then, at least for our state and our county, we've been working really hard. And this is how. At least, and correct me if I'm wrong, because the people here in the room that are older than me, that have been in the municipality for way longer than me, I met David at Beyond 34 back when I was trying to get in the field of sustainability. The Beyond 34 was the first really regional, in my opinion, impact project that we took on. Regional being lots of municipalities came together, public and private partnerships, stakeholders in one room. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation put us all in a room together. 34 is representative of 34% diversion rate. That was the average of the United States of America diversion rate. So we got everybody in a room together and we said, how can we get past this number? And there was breakout sessions. There was all these smart, intelligent people in the room. And we were like, how can we do this? And then there was projects sorted by priority. One of them I'll get to was the Orange County MRF. And one of them actually also was Winter Park Center Street, believe it or not, which is the alleyway behind Park Ave. That was been going on still, Regina, to this day. We're still working on that project. So we've been working on this for quite some time, even longer. And there were lots of projects that got approved. Jumping forward one more year, or during that year, Central Florida Recycles was born. As you can see here, there's a lovely campaign sign. We have a couple that were circulating on billboards. There's a website. It still is active to this day. This is a intergovernmental collaborative efforts. So as you can see, Orange County, Seminole County, City of Orlando, us, Winter Garden, and Apopka, we're all part of this. It's actually restarting, we're reforming, we're re-engaging. And so I want to instill hope in you because I want to say this effort hasn't died. It's actually very alive. We're still working together, and we're working with other people too. We want everybody to be a part of this mission. So the way you can spread the word is to tell your friends about it. It has so much amount of information on this website. It also houses the what goes where tool. It helps you store it and it gives you all these resources. So please go on to there. And then finally, like I didn't include every organization on here. I did include our wonderful Keep America Beautiful affiliates, Keep Winter Park Beautiful and Keep Orlando Beautiful. They do great work on litter prevention and also recycling education in the area. But there's also other nonprofits in the area that do great work, like Ideas for Us and other local amazing nonprofits like Sierra Club, etc. You can find and get active and engage and volunteer to help any of those groups to learn more. Okay. This lovely flyer sticker. It was actually a sticker. It was given out to you folks probably around 2018. Another organization that worked with us is Recycling Across America. They made these signs, calling them out. You can also see these signs at the airport, believe it or not. A lot of other municipalities like City of Orlando, I think, have also adopted these signs. Their main mission is to standardize recycling, because recycling, as we know, is difficult. Is it 1 through 7? Is it 1 through 2? What is it? And so, back with the Central Florida Recycles mission and even that nonprofit back then, we were like, let's get away from those numbers and let's start focusing on the actual containers. So, we're very visual. We're still very visual. And so, we want to educate you folks in looking at, gallons and bottles, cans and clean paper and cardboard. Very simplistic. Anything that doesn't look like this does not go in your bin, but also we provided this great chart. It says 1 through 2. Those are, if we want to go through numbers, those are high in demand. But there are sometimes containers that have the 3 or 5. Um, you know, Orange County does accept 1 through 7. You have to be wary of, food residue. High amounts is not going to be good, but I mean, some of it's fine. It just, you don't want to put a whole massive peanut butter jar in your container. That you throw that in the trash. Also, don't throw like half a turkey in there with your aluminum foil. Like, you really want to just scrape all that off. Um, and again, you could call us if you want support. The Recollect tool also give you some support. But we are hoping to create newer signs to send out to our residents soon. We're working on a recycling plan, just so you know. So we can have more of this go out to the public, and we do want to do more in our parks, more on Park Ave. So that is coming in the next year to 2 years. So stay tuned to that. But all of this is referenced on our website. Some of your stickers may even still be on your bin. So if it's not and you would like a refresher, you want me to send you some information, just please call me. I'm happy to provide that to you. So yeah, just to review, big recycling tips: no bags, no styrofoams in the cart. Publix, your like Walmart's, Target, they might have collection sites for these bags. Styrofoam as well, but obviously they're not going to take your big packing styrofoam, just like the egg cartons. You want to make sure that you're focusing on the shapes again. You want to make sure it's not contaminated. You want to flatten your cardboard. This is very serious. It sounds silly, but if you don't flatten it and you just shove it in your cart, it's not gonna it's not gonna work. It's because, well, one, you're losing space for your recycling cart. But for two, you're not contaminating it, but it's most likely not going to be sorted correctly at the material recovery facility. It's most likely just going to end up in the landfill because if it's sorted and flattened, they can take that out easily and sort it with everything else. So it's a one extra step, but there's a benefit. You save space in your cart, and it gets recycled. We have issues though. So we do a program, Waste Pro can talk about this a little bit. We're working really hard on our Center Street alleyway just behind Park Ave with restaurants. We have actually revamped the dumpsters back there to be accepting cardboard specifically where there's a slot so that it curbs behavior so that the restaurant's back of house staff can't just shove it in the dumpster and walk away. They can't fit it in that tiny slot anymore. They're going to have to cut it, break it apart, and into the slot. So it takes time though. Behavior change, recycling, I could say, is everybody. It's probably one of the hardest things to tackle in sustainability because it's a habit. It's a very hard habit to break. All of you, obviously, it looks like all of you love recycling. You want it to stay. I'm hoping. There's some people that are not in the crowd that are not like that, but you are doing the best that you can to make sure it continues that way. But there are other people that don't understand it, don't want to do it, don't like it. It's just too hard for them to wrap their head around, or they weren't raised around it. And so when you're not raised or educated about this and the importance of it, you don't get there's no why in your brain to do it. So that's where we come in, and this is why we have programs like this to instill the why into them so that maybe they will change that one behavior pattern, whether it's going zero waste, which is the extreme, or maybe it's just recycling their cardboard and that's it. But just pick one thing. That's my little rant for that day. And when in doubt, throw it out. Okay, and this is the last of my slides. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Again, we do post our missed pickups on Facebook. So if you're not following Facebook, you should if you are a resident, because if you miss your yard waste, which is like the number one thing that gets missed, sadly, we post a map with highlighted streets, and you can see that in the morning, right after on Thursday morning, and you could say, "Oh, I'm there," and that will save you the hassle of trying to call us to get a hold of us. But obviously, if you need any other help, we can help you with that. All right, I'm kind of gonna stop here because I kind of want to get into the panel discussion. We all know that what recycling is and the importance of it. This whole next slide was about refusing unnecessary things and then going into zero waste. We do have a lovely representative here. She'll introduce herself. She owns a store here in Orlando, and she is like a queen of sustainability and zero waste, in my opinion. And she'll talk to you about that. That is the extreme of this. It is something that, again, is a habit to learn, but we want to remember that recycling works. It works if you do it right, but that's not the only solution. So you can reduce, go back to our R's here: refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle. Composting is also on there. It's called rot. That's the other R, rot. And that's another thing we could talk about. We have a lovely representative on the team here. We'll do introductions in a second. My mind is going so fast here because I'm so excited. But basically, they're a lovely vendor here in Orlando if you don't know them, and you can compost with them. We work with them, and they're great partners with us. So to get into it, I'm going to pass this microphone down, and I want you guys to introduce yourselves quickly. One to two things, like who you are, where you're from, and just like a little bit about your background. Keep it short and sweet if you can. Okay?
Hi, I'm David Greg. Oh, can you hear me? Hi, I'm David Gregory. I'm the Solid Waste Division Manager for Orange County. And I'll start. I was born. No, we won't go back that far. But again, we manage a lot of the infrastructure when it comes to waste management for the county, for the public infrastructure. There's also public and private partnerships. A lot of work we do is in partnership with the private sector and with the city. So um, I'm David.
Hi, I'm Raymond. I live here in Winter Park. Been here almost 30 years. Been in solid waste and recycling for a little over 30 years. Started actually working with this guy at a consulting firm and then was recruited to work at WM with this guy. And so now I'm still with WM. I've had a variety of roles there, and I currently lead our textile recycling initiatives.
Good evening. My name is Alan Morrison, and I work for the City of Orlando Solid Waste. I'm the division manager there, and I've been in the garbage business, started with waste management. Now I'm with the city for a little over 25 years. So,
Good evening. I'm Platt Loftus. I'm a government affairs director with Wastepro, Florida. I'm from North Carolina. I've been here for 20 years. Started with Wastepro as a trainee and have now moved into municipal marketing government affairs in the last 10 to 15 years.
Hello. Sorry. My name is Eric Emna. I'm the fleet manager for O-Town Compost. I've been with the company for about 2 years. We started 5 years ago in 2019, picking up food waste from local subscribers all around Orange County. And so far, it's grown to over 700 subscribers, and we've collected almost 7 million pounds of food waste thus far. So if you have any questions about organics, I'd be happy to answer them.
Hi, my name is Alisa Bolaños. I own OECO. We are the first physical eco shop and refillery here in Orlando, which still blows my mind. And my whole mission has always been to just make it easy and accessible for people to do their part. I have feelings about the word zero waste. I'll get into that, but I've been in the sustainability space for about 6 years now, and I just want to make it easy.
Hi, I'm Regina Coronia. I work for Waste Pro. I'm the division manager here in Orlando. I've been doing this for 34 years in waste hauling and recycling since I moved down here in 91. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Austin Penn. I'm here representing Urbany Recycling. I've been working with them in electronic waste recycling for almost 5 years now.
Okay, so just hold on to that mic, and I have a couple here too. I have about 10 questions for these panelists, and some of them I have multiple people I might want to, tune in, but at the same time, I might just say one person and move on. Some of these questions are open ended, and we can probably all of us love to talk trash, as David likes to say. We talk trash all the time, and we love it. We love it. If we get so into it, we're all nerds about it. So I'm probably going to be, I might stop you guys if it's getting too long. And this is not to, no hard feelings. It's just to keep moving on. And like I said, we're going to have a Q&A at the end. So hold your questions. But let's get into it. Okay. So I'm going to assign this to Orlando, if that's okay. And the question is, what role does policy and local infrastructure play in shaping effective recycling programs? And if you want to chime in, David, if you feel like you want to do that, because I know you have a lot to say about that, you can.
okay, our role with the city of Orlando and where we feel responsible about first is the education portion of it, and we goes as far to break down the community area of where it is, so that the information that we're putting it out is relative to that community or that culture within that community, because that does affect how we the recycling portion of it. And what I mean by that is the first thing you need to do when you recycle, it starts at the grocery store. Okay, what type packaging are you buying to begin with? So education for the city is job one for us, and then we provide the proper containers there. And then in 2019, we passed an ordinance to include multifamily homes and apartment complexes, to that they have to provide some sort of way to recycle from within their unit or their complex. So we do, and we do enforce that. So that's pretty much what the city does. So,
If I could just add one thing. One of the questions Sarah asked about was infrastructure, right? And the issue with a lot of this waste management, the business we're in, is it's very intensive for infrastructure. A landfill costs millions of dollars to build and site and operate. A waste energy plant is well over $1 billion to build. So to be aware of, or a recycling facility, probably in the neighborhood of 50 to 80 million dollars to build and operate, and then it costs to operate it every year. So again, having this infrastructure in place is important, and from the policy standpoint is trying to build partnerships between business and government, and then also partnerships amongst different entities because no one person can do it all, but we have to share the responsibility.
That's great. Yeah. And just keep it going, David, because I'm going to assign this to you. How can we make recycling more accessible and efficient, including underserved communities?
Um, we Orange County, we provide recycling to all our single-family residential units, but we also do have a number of drop-off locations, particularly at our transfer stations, where folks that may not have curbside recycling, there is an opportunity to, again, deliver to the landfill or one of our transfer stations where recycling can be delivered. And it's always a challenge in trying to reach out to the underserved communities. Um, one of the uh, one of the challenges we see too is, are people recycling and do they know how to recycle correctly? And we've done some really neat work with University of Central Florida. There's a fellow there, Nick Chen, and Debbie Reinhardt, and they focus on on recycling. And so some of it is the messaging to get out to people of trying to let them know what's important. We've gone out and we've put tags on all 240,000 residents that we have carts with to look in the cart, tell people, are they recycling right, not recycling right? Goes back to what Alan said, is, educating the customers. Some folks, it's interesting. We've done some surveys too, and the response we get from the surveys is, well, you really ought to send a mailer out. We send a mailer out once a quarter. And so you wonder if people connect the dots because they often don't want to understand about how to do recycling correctly unless they're thinking about it at the moment, right? And so that's where we thought tagging the carts, and we're continuing to do that, looking at some of the areas where our recycling is not as good as it is in other places, and working with University of Florida, getting some grants from some different entities to do that research to try to work on the messaging. How do we reach people and targeting folks where they live about how to recycle correctly? Does that help?
That's perfect. Thank you. I'm going to move on to the next question. And this is going to be assigned to, I'm going to start with OECO, and I might hit some others along the way. But what are some of the ongoing partnerships that have been formed locally to help reduce waste and encourage recycling that you offer in your store?
Well, let me preface to say that we don't have our physical store anymore,
Oh,
as
I
heartbreaking as
apologize.
that is, but we're still very active in the community. One of my favorite partnerships is my Eco Bestie right here, O Town Compost. We've done a ton of events and we have had O Town buckets and helped with signups. Ideas for Us is another really proud partnership that we've had because we've helped divert food waste through when we had our fridge in the shop with the local produce that was just diverted with O Town, anything that wasn't sold. Um, we also have partnerships with um, kind of with ideas, but we hold clothing swaps every quarter. And our goal for that is always free and accessible to the community, but to help divert textile waste. So anything that does not get swapped at the clothing swap gets donated to Mustard Seed or One Heart Women and Child, both organizations that really help within the community. So, like, it has been said and is always said, it's not just one person. So all of these partnerships have really helped us just make it a little greener here in Orlando.
That was perfect. Thank you so much for that. And what about urban recycling? Can you answer that question too?
Yeah, so beyond just the events that we do, like Keep Winter Park Beautiful, we partner with many local city municipalities and even uh, property management companies to do local events to really spread the e-cycle awareness. A lot of people, whether you're at home or at work, have a closet somewhere full of old material, old computers, old data, things that you wish to get rid of, a bucket of wires that you don't want to end up into a landfill or in the hands of somebody who doesn't want to handle it right. Coming through us and doing the events that we do to, spread the awareness of what it is one of the ways that we help facilitate the first spur. Once we get, people into the right mindset to start changing their ways, is when they start actually utilizing these tools that we provide.
Thank you. I'm going to jump back to Alyssa for a second here because I think this one, I think she could provide a lot of insight with this question.
Pressure.
And then I'm going to jump to O Town because I feel like you will also have a good answer to this question. How can businesses and manufacturers contribute to a more sustainable recycling system?
Um, well, firstly, again, like mentioned before, is ditching plastic for better materials. So I think this is where I have the beef with the term zero waste because it implies that the burden is placed on the individual when I feel like it should be placed on these manufacturers or companies that have maybe more ability to look for compostable materials, glass, aluminum, infinitely recyclable materials. It's kind of goes back to if they wanted to, they would. And I feel like a lot of these um, corporations have that responsibility to us as consumers to provide these better options. That will streamline the recycling process down the road because you already have things that are infinitely recyclable or compostable and or biodegradable that go back down to the earth. So I think that's where it really should start with those changes and policies to reflect those changes with local government. So maybe um, I don't know. This is why I'm not in government. I don't make policies. I just talk about them. But yeah, I think the burden shouldn't be on the individual, but on the manufacturers and on these corporations that have that power, that buying power, I should say, to be able to make those changes for us.
Thanks. Thank you. I'd also like to reflect back on what Alan said. It does start in the grocery store. It starts with you as the individual and whatever consumeristic behaviors or preferences you may have. If, you go and buy a bunch of parsley, you got to remember that that tie, for example, isn't compostable. That has to go in the landfill bin. There's a wire in there that can be, still reutilized, and then that paper has to go, in the trash by itself. But it's about understanding the intricacies of the packaging that you're getting and also considering why am I buying it this way? Why not get a bulk container of, nuts or pistachios instead of getting, a box with 18 little packets of it inside, which each of those foils has to get taken off and thrown away, taken off and thrown away. Where you could just have, I'm kind of a crunchy person, so I use a mason jar for everything from coffee to dry goods and, transport my stuff around like that. But I like that because I don't have to spend a lot of money on it, like reusables or single use things. My wife and I, we do have compostable bags in our house for both waste, but also sandwich bags. But then there's other things that plastic just does a better job at. For our carts and our buckets, for example, we get all of those from American plastic companies. But that being said, we've had our finished compost tested, and our PFAS levels are below traceable. So it all comes out in the wash at the end. So it's about understanding that these materials all initially did come from nature or man's input on it, but we have to understand what's the best use for this product, what's the best waste stream, and how are each of our decisions impacting the world around us.
Keep the microphone real quick. I want you to talk about this next question. What programs exist for businesses, but really I want you to talk about local schools real quick because you're doing a really great program right now to recycle and reduce waste.
Currently, in light of schools and businesses, Orange County Public Schools just finished. We're just wrapping up a 2-year pilot program with 21 Orange County Public Schools, and we started composting cafeteria waste. So that's back of the house and front of the house as well. And a lot of our commercial restaurants, we don't typically do front of the house waste because of the amount of contamination, but because there is the education portion of it, which is so essential to its functionality. It's about telling our students where their food waste is going next. It's going to a local farm. And so they don't want to throw a straw or a plastic fork or, any kind of cling wrap into the compost bin because they know that's going to a farm that's going to go feed chickens, it's going to go feed the livestock and ultimately the ecosystem again. And so those organic materials have a place and the students are able to understand that. And I believe to date we've composted over 100,000 pounds with Orange County Public Schools alone, and that's not going in the landfill. Which it's that's organic waste is a heavy burden on their vehicles. They already have a huge job to do, and if we can do anything to make that easier, that's essential. And same with hotels. We have several large hotel partners that compost with us, and they just source separate. Whether it's a full grown or adult or a child, it's a really approachable task. Just recognizing what's reusable and where does something go.
That's great. Thank you so much for highlighting that program. I think it's amazing. You guys are doing great work. We're also partners with them, obviously. We haven't really announced this publicly. We're still working on the program, but a year ago, we did a pilot on Center Street to compost with restaurants. We have about 14 restaurants on Park Ave that are composting with us. We're still trying to work some kinks out before really announcing everything, and we want to expand it. But right now, it's free of charge to restaurants to um, utilize this program. We can't really expand right now because we're paying for that fee, and we're looking at really creative ways that we can continue this program. But right now, we are continuing with that for those 14 restaurants, and they're all on Park Ave, and they're really amazing restaurants like Ava, for example, and Bosphorus. Um, I can keep naming them, but just to save time, continue going to these restaurants. They are, working hard to be our partners. They want to do better, and support your businesses that are trying to do better. We have a green business recognition program where some of these businesses are being recognized because they're doing great work in regards to sustainability and implementing new sustainability best management practices in their business. So, if you know of any or if you want to know names of them, they're on our website. Please support those businesses. Okay, so moving on, number 6, we're almost there. This is for Waste Pro. And I might jump to WM to go back and forth if you have some insight. But what strategies are in place to reduce contamination in recycling streams?
Along with Waste Pro, is that all right?
Sure.
Okay. Hey, again, Plant Loftus. I've got a little bit of a few notes here. Again, I'm from North Carolina. I need to do a little bit of reading. So, the strategies to reduce contamination we feel is threefold. It's a threefold process to win over or to change hearts and minds because this is a perception thing that we're having an issue with out here. So it starts with education, right? I mean, that's the basics. When we start with a new contract, such as the town of Oakland, which we started recently, we roll out with the transition, and that means distributing carts, recycling carts, and along with carts, we hand out a flyer. It's a notification piece that shows what is acceptable or unacceptable materials. And surprisingly, there's 4 categories of acceptable materials and so many more of unacceptable materials. So it's really important to understand what cannot go into a recycling cart. Secondly, is we also create a link to the town or municipality's website. And this is essentially an introduction to Waste Pro. This is your new waste hauler. These are going to be your new service dates. And by the way, we put this on there as well. So we want to continue to reinforce what can and cannot be um, cycled. Thirdly, HOA meetings, condo associations. Each one of these two entities has stakeholder meetings once or twice a year. Folks come to board or directors come down from Canada or the Northeast and they want to listen to what's going on in their particular association or HOA meeting. And many times we're volunteered to come talk about recycling, solid waste, and what to do, and again, what not to do. Again, it's just over and over pushing the education component. Community events. Winter Park and Maitland both have outstanding community events. Winter Park, in particular, has an Arbor Day or an Earth Day event every year, and we utilize that event to come out, set up a tent, put out a table full of literature, and again, this flyer to show residents who want to come talk about recycling on what to do and what not to do. Again, we're trying to reinforce behaviors here. Um, Secondly, we provide frequent reminders like I've just been talking about. And also we have a branded coloring book. I'm not going to pull all this out, but it's a branded Waste Pro coloring and activity book for kids to take home, and it's quite instructional. It actually shows them what they can and cannot recycle and why. It's very informative. Actually, I probably ought to hand it out to you folks here, which I can show you later. Um, Tagging for noncompliance. So this is kind of where we point the finger back at the resident to change their behaviors. If our drivers drive by a recycling cart and there's a rubber hose sticking out or some textiles, they're instructed not to dump that can. Now, when they do that, they have to set out a tag and write out an explanation, a very brief explanation, and attach it to that recycling cart as to why collection didn't take place. And we also keep a copy. The driver keeps a copy of that tag, so there's no confusion at all. So we're now trying to start to, point the finger back at what's going on with contamination. Also with social media, Orange County, they have 77,000 Facebook folks that that look at their Facebook account every day. Why can't we do some type of partnership with the county? And I think we already do in regards to social media. Yeah, and we can always update that as items become online for recycling or go offline. And then there's recycling audits. This is something we haven't done yet, but I understand in Orange County and other counties that there are heads looking into carts, looking and inspecting to look for contaminated items. And if that's seen, it's tagged and notified. And lastly, number three, we try to lead by example. Regina here, she conducts excellent hazmat, hazardous materials waste collection day events in the city of Winter Park and Maitland. And these two events generate tons of hazardous materials that are being diverted away from the landfill into the water stream. Community cleanups. Just last weekend, I was at Keep Lake Beautiful, another Keep Florida Beautiful affiliate, helping with community cleanups. Um, and I'm kind of rambling here. I'll wrap this up. Government buildings and offices. We really encourage our municipalities, government facilities, police stations, fire stations, public works buildings. Every one of these facilities needs to be recycling, and we drive a truck up there to collect this recycling. My wife, she's a state attorney. She comes home from her office once a week with a bag full of recyclables. She brings it home to me, and I set it out for recycling. So anyhow, I'm not going to go on in here, but anyhow, we feel that education is very important, and to continue to re-educate the consumer to get that needle back towards single digits. It's right now, from what I don't quote me, but I think we're in double digit contamination. Am I safe in saying that?
Mhm.
Yeah, and we need to put that back, turn it back towards single digits. That's
Mhm.
all I got.
We really value your partnership. We are working a lot together. Me and Regina have each other on speed dial. I have all the drivers on speed dial, actually. We love all of the drivers. If you haven't said hello to them, they're so sweet. They're so nice. Chris, especially. But basically, just know that we are working really hard to level up our recycling program here at the city. You will see, hopefully, in next year or so, we're going to do an audit actually in the city to figure out what areas in the city really need to be worked on. Consistently we have the same contamination rate, which tells me the same amount of people are not recycling and the same amount of people are recycling. So how are we going to message to the folks that are not recycling? How can I push them to do better if they want to do better? And then if they don't want to do better, what can we do as a city to fix that? Maybe we take away carts. Maybe we do something else. We haven't figured it out yet. I know Orange County is also figuring it out in this realm. But just to keep on time here, I'm going to bounce around these questions super fast. But I'm going to give this to Orlando, and then we're going to jump to Orange County. For the first one, what are some of the most common recycling mistakes you see in your communities, and how are you addressing these issues? Orlando, yeah.
Okay, I'll start. And I know this is fresh because we just finished a huge community audit. One of the most common things we see, and I even heard Platt mention it, when you bag your recyclables, that is one of the most common things we see, a bag full of aluminum cans. We want those aluminum cans, but don't put them in a plastic bag. If you take it out there empty, that's one of the most common things we see. Another thing that we notice, you got to separate what is reusable versus what's recyclable. Okay? A water hose is reusable, okay? It's not recyclable. Okay, that causes all kinds of problems with the processing. And food waste, that is our largest contaminant, whether it be in a jar or some sort of container that's not thoroughly empty. You don't have to rinse everything out. It don't have to be dishwater clean, but it has to have. It can't have food in it. It just can't do that. Okay, so those are, like I say, we just finished a huge audit, and I'd be happy to share it with anybody here on the panel. It's very educational and eye opening, and just know that when you do audits, um, and with the city of Orlando, we have some very diverse cultural segments of the city, and they can vary. Contamination level can vary with different things. So,
Thank you. Agreed
Yeah.
with all of that. I don't have data for you about Winter Park, but I know that that's probably similar, even though we're a smaller city. But we can't compare our data with Orange County and Orlando. Just want to let you know that. If you are out there looking at data from Orange County and Orlando, they are very large cities and counties. We are 30,000 folks. So our audit, our rates, our contamination levels are going to be all different. So I just want to emphasize that. This one's for you, David from Orange County. How are you working to increase recycling participation, especially among residents who may be less engaged or informed? And I have the last two for WM because I really invited you for this question because I'm super interested and I want to know all about textiles personally. So that's why you're here and you can talk for the rest of the time. But David, answer this question before he talks.
Yeah. So again, and I want to hear what Raymond's got to say also. So is Raymond. But we have, I'm going to turn that question around and say, how do we make sure that the people that want to recycle have recycling available to them, and we have good clean recyclables that we can actually recycling's not putting stuff in a cart, recycling's not picking it up in a truck, it's not even taking it to the MRF. It's when you buy something off the shelf that's been made from recyclable products, and you have to have good feedstock, and this is all like industry and business to put it through. And so one of the things we're looking at is to try to make sure that folks that want to recycle have recycling available, but those people that are there's 10% of the population, and believe me, we've done some deep studies on it, that they don't care. They use their recycled cart as their garbage cart. And so what we're going to do is take the carts away from them. And I think that what we need to do is focus on folks that want to do it the right way, help them do it the right way. And those folks that don't care, we can't make folks care. And so, but we again want to make it as a service available. We want to do that. We always say we try to do what most people want to do most of the time at the best price that we can provide for them. And so, again, that's our thoughts on recycling availability. Like I said, we've tried to make it available, but for those folks that want to recycle.
That's great. And so these next questions are for you, Raymond. So get ready. And then I know we started a little late, so I hope you guys can stay a couple more minutes. We're about at 6:53 mark. And then we'll take your questions at the end. But so Raymond, what programs are in place to promote textile recycling and how are residents and businesses being educated about this service?
Yeah, great question. So I will start at a high level and say that the way textiles are managed will not be the same as the way they have been managed. Legislatively, we're not going to be allowed to. Some states have already put a ban on landfilling textiles. Some states are implementing legislation requiring brands and retailers to pay into a fund that would mitigate textiles at end of waste. So you're going to see massive changes, I think, going across the country in over the next 10, 15 years of how you're allowed to manage textiles. But what's encouraging is there are really cool technologies and business models and innovations emerging that allow us to manage it differently. Besides having to, we can actually do things with the different. So we just opened up the first robotic near infrared textile sorting facility in the U.S. It's up in South Carolina, unfortunately. But we'll start to see some of these scattered around the country as there's more and more uh, calling for that kind of service. And so we're starting with brands and retailers, working with them on a lot of their kind of unsold goods, working with them to figure out what can be donated and then what can't be donated. How do we find alternative markets for that? There's some companies that can now take that textile and convert it back into a new fiber to go back into a new garment. So that's super exciting. Some are focused on natural fibers, some are focused on synthetic fibers. And then there's other alternative uses. Again, if it can't go to those fiber recyclers, it can be turned into pet bed stuffing and roof insulation and all sorts of other products that still diverted away from landfill. So started with businesses, and now we're working on launching some curbside collection programs, much like the bulky program you mentioned. So it won't be a weekly program like you have for your regular recycling, but it'd be more like a bulky program. So there's a number of cities across the U.S. That we're starting that with in April here during Earth Week, where it'll be a quarterly curbside collection of your textiles. And we're working with some thrifts to pull out what can be donated, still viable for resale and rewear and repair, and then we'll sort at our facilities for the fiber to fiber emerging recyclers and then send to the downcyclers what's left from that.
That's awesome. I love
So
that. I love that we're finally moving in that direction. I know that I don't know about you, but we all know if you go to Goodwill, they're overloaded. A lot of other thrift stores are overloaded, but some are not. You have to find the ones you want to donate to. But sometimes you feel bad because you're donating all these clothes that have holes in it, and you're like, really, does anybody want these raggedy old clothes? Like, what do you do with those? So I'm glad we're starting that process here. And lastly, what challenges arise when integrating textile recycling into existing waste diversion programs, and how are they being addressed?
I don't think you'll see textile collection be integrated into recycling collections anytime soon. I think our head of recycling has threatened me within an inch of my life if I ever tell him we're bringing textiles into his new recycling facilities. I think long term and maybe midterm, that's a possibility. But for right now, those are going to be pretty separate collections. The equipment to collect it is different. The equipment to sort it is different. The volume, processing volume that you need at these facilities are all different. So it'd be tough to mix those initially, but maybe at some point that could get there where it's one big happy recycling facility or something.
And this is a side question, but you're South Carolina, you said?
That's where the first facility is located, South
And
Carolina.
are you working with cities there, like yet to do this, or just
Ironically, that's not the heartbeat of who wants to launch textile recycling
okay?
programs. So I can't tell the cities yet, but they're in cities that you might think are more progressive in that regard.
Okay, that's really cool. Well, thank you so much. Again, thank you for being here. All of you guys on this panel are highly intelligent, highly skilled, all in the community. And I brought you here for a reason. I, look up to you guys in different ways, and you guys help me with my programs here. And so thank you for being here. I want to open the floor to you guys if you have any questions about recycling, and I'm going to pass a microphone to you. So I would just raise your hand and I'll walk around. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. It was really interesting. Um, the question I have is if we start at the source with the plastic companies, is there some kind of way that you can judge are plastic uses on the increase? Is it does it get greater every year, the amount that's produced?
I'm going to hand this to Mr. Gregory.
Well, there is more plastic produced, and one of the things that has led to a lot of plastics being made is there's a lot of natural gas, right? And that's part of the natural gas with all the fracking and all that. So that is a relatively cheap feedstock that they can make it. And plastic's got a lot of good uses, right? And so, but again, it's kind of the question is what are the uses? And but what we are seeing is a lot of the people that use plastics, a lot of the brand owners, the Coca-Cola, Pepsi Cola, they say, okay, we know we're going to use this material. We want to have skin in the game to take it back and recycle it. So there are a lot of efforts by those same people that are producing the material to take it back. Now, some states make it a state initiative that there's a law that they have to have this extended producer responsibility, and others, other states are going to be more dependent upon the brand owners and the bottle manufacturers to take it back. But I think we're going to see more plastic. But because of a lot of different factors, but like you said, a lot of it comes from petroleum. I don't know if you had any.
I'll just add, I mean, plastics aren't horrible. There are some wonderful uses for plastics if they're used in the right manner. And if there's a concept called design with intent, where we think about the end of the use of the product or the end of the management of the product during the design phase of the product. And so if that's gone in with that forethought, then it can be a valuable material to have in it. The question is, do we have the infrastructure in the program set up to get the plastic back at the end? And that's not always the case. Almost everything is technically recyclable. Not everything is practically recyclable. So figuring out how do we make things practically recyclable. And I think the other part is a lot of times there's this confusion that if it's got those, chasing arrows on the bottom or it's got that print on the bottom, that automatically means it's recyclable. That's not the case. And so I think it's been said a couple times about deciding how you shop and understanding is what you're buying recyclable. Just because it has that mark on the bottom doesn't mean it's recyclable. You really need to look at the local guidelines for what's allowed in your particular program. Manufacturers will put that on there just to make you think, hey, it's recyclable.
You mentioned also that there was a list of companies that are good partners in recyclable efforts. Is there any way you can publish that to give guidance to the public?
Um, yeah, I'm trying to think of some of the trade associations and like the recycling partnership. I mean, they have a website and they tell you who their partners are, and they try to promote it. So sometimes it's a matter of going to the source, but um, yeah, I'm trying to
Well,
think how we
well,
would do that. Yeah.
yeah. I'll give this up in a minute. I'm sorry, but for instance, like Publix uses foam for all their eggs, and they use plastic for all their milk products. You can go to Aldi's and they use paper. Will that ever get to a point where that's mandated?
That's a political question.
Not so much for like companies and big things like that, but on a smaller scale, at least where you go to eat. Surfrider is a national organization, and they have Ocean Friendly Restaurant, this initiative. And even though Orlando has no ocean around us, we have an Orlando Surfrider. And they work with restaurants and some smaller grocery stores to make sure that they are not giving single use plastic, that they work with compostable materials and only offer, let's say, a ketchup packet if it's required. So on Surfrider's website, that kind of information is available. At least, it's something.
Okay, so we have the back first, and I'll get to you. Is that okay? All right. Hi, Mary.
Thanks all for this very informative panel. And we've all heard this, the idea that nothing is really getting recycled, that it's leaving our yard, but it's all going into the landfill. Can you all respond to that? How can we persuade people that's really not true?
Well, I'll say real quick, and I'll let you follow up, Ray. But the one thing I'll say is we get paid back for certain recyclables. I know that there's published indices, and they survey the trends, and they ask people who are buying the stuff that if a ton of paper is worth $50 this month, and a ton of aluminum cans is worth about $1,500, and a ton of milk jugs is worth about $1,200. If somebody's buying it, it's not getting thrown away.
Perceive it's not. People perceive that it's not getting recycled.
If there's a way to encourage tours at the recycling facilities, those are really eye-opening experiences. It's not super convenient here in Orlando at the moment, but if they can get to Tampa or Cocoa Beach, there's some great facilities there. I think just conceptually, it would be a really horrible business model to build a 50, 70, $80 million recycling facility only to buy a second set of trucks and have them just completely skip it and go ahead and take it directly to the landfill. It just wouldn't make any sense.
It's perception. That what they're trying to fix the perception.
Yeah, you're right.
And I'll say this just because you guys are all residents. I mean, we track this data, and I work with Orange County. I have to report data to Orange County. I'm actually finalizing data right now for our commercial, construction, C&D, roll off, all that. So I have data that we track. So it's getting recycled. I know that sometimes, you're out there and you see maybe trucks throwing something. There's a purpose for that. If you see something mixed together, there's a purpose for that. That's not happening all the time. But majority of our recyclables are getting recycled. There's a process, and we actually have a YouTube video on YouTube. You go to City Winter Park YouTube. The old sustainability manager that was here, her name was Vanessa. She made a video of the whole process. It's very informative. I encourage you to watch it. It tells you where our waste goes to, the transfer station, how it gets inspected. I believe there's like a 30% threshold, and it has to go to the landfill. So if it has some waste in it, it's fine. But if it's above 30%, then it goes to the landfill. So I have reports that we are getting it's being recycled. I promise you, I see it all the time. Are humans doing this, David? Yes.
Humans are, but they're also got robots doing it too in some places.
Yes. And I don't know if David, can't remember if you talked about this at all in your infrastructure talk, but the MRF, I mean, we are working on a material recovery facility in Orange County, and that's happening the next 3 to 5 years, maybe.
Yes.
And that's going to change the game for Central Florida. Their threshold will be what, 40%?
Yes.
I just learned this today. So, the city is looking at how we can maybe partner with the MRF. We're not finalized yet. There's a lot of things we have to work through. Things might happen between now and then as well. But we're looking at how we can increase our diversion rate, how we can work with you all, how we can work with those residents. So I want to say that, if you have anybody, any neighbor that's just not with it, I'd encourage them to go to any of our events. This being one of them, we want to continue these events. We want to continue them maybe at least quarterly or maybe at least twice a year at the minimum. But come to these events, talk about it. I want to talk about these things. I want them to come to me. I want them to call me. I mean, I sit on the phone sometimes and talk to people for 30 minutes. I'm not even joking about this, and I try to get them to understand the facts. And they may hang up and get aggravated. I'm not that has happened to me before, but I just say the facts. Like, this is what it is. And come to the next event so I can meet you in person. Let's talk about it. I've had somebody come to me, no joke, at the state of the city address, and he said, well, tell me the facts, tell me the rates, tell me like every sentence was like, I just want to know, I just want to know. And I'm like, I can tell you not in front of you the data, but I can, talk to you on the phone another time and we can have a whole conversation. He's like, well, I'm sorry, I'm on edge because I'm actually in a split household. My wife is against recycling and I am for it. And I just want to prove to her that it actually works. And I said, I get it. I get it. That's stressful. So, like, have her come to this event so I can talk to her so we can have a one-on-one. So, anyways, finalizing this next question and then we'll wrap it up. Okay. And then we can talk one-on-one after this and come to the next one. Okay.
Hi. My question was related to what you guys been talking lately. Um, I understand there's this single stream recycling bin. And my question was like, what happens next? How many facilities are there in Central Florida that can treat that stream? Does it need to be shipped somewhere else? And the same goes for the electronics. I'm curious about that. You collect it from the cars and then what?
I'll speak real quickly about the recycling. Um, I was just at a conference last week. University of Florida is doing a study for the state about capacity, right? How much disposal capacity is there in this state? How much recycling capacity in this state? And we are at a real deficit. And so there are, as Raymond mentioned, there's recycling facilities. There's one in Lakeland. There's one in Cocoa, one in Tampa, couple along the over in Sarasota. But that we need some more recycling facilities. But they do exist. Orange County operated one up until about 2017. Then it just got too old and we shut it down. And now we take our recyclables here in Orange County. We put them on a truck and they go over to Cocoa or they go to Tampa. So right now that's where your material's going. But again, Waste Management is a bona fide company. They are recycling it. They have the sorting equipment. Just did multi-million-dollar upgrades to those facilities to be able to put material through. But we got a lot more to do. So, but as Sarah said, we're working on a project that I've been working on with Orange County to try to bring a material recovery facility or MRF here to Central Florida because we know there is a real need for here in the local market.
Yes, and when it comes to us here at Urban E-Recycling, um, well, when it comes to the perception of it all, you see us take your material at the recycling event from the trunk of your car, and then it goes onto a truck, and it's out of sight, out of mind, right? It does serve us similar to the way that he was leading it. We being a no cost but still for profit company, the only way that we make money is if we do go through those proper recycling channels. Our entire business structure is geared towards the scrap recycling of it all, and that is where we make all of our money. That is what allows us to do it for no cost to the consumer. Your material coming through us is simply getting sorted into different base components the way that they ask you to sort your recycling, and then going to the proper channels to get recycled appropriately. There is money to be made in the recycle of these materials. There's a lot of precious metals and electronics. Um, but on top of that, the service in which that we go through, they want the material in a certain way. In the shredding of that material and getting it prepped for them, that is what allows us to also provide free data destruction to the customers. Consumers are often, especially on the residential level, often very afraid of their data getting out there. You have a smart TV, you upgrade to a new, bigger one, you don't remember that your credit card information is on the other one. So if it comes to us, one of the primary things that we try to guarantee is that your data is secure and destroyed before it leaves our facility. And that actually facilitates into the recycling of it all because we wish to shred these things before we even sell them out the back end. So it's how it kind of works out for us in that way, to where we get to provide the service for free while also getting the material prepped for sale. And that's how we sustain ourselves. So yes, absolutely. We do have some material that does end up in Canada, I know. But all material stays within the continental United States. So
Okay, I think. Oh, one more. Do we have time for one more? Okay. I'm gonna run it. Hold on.
A shout out first to the Waste Pro guys. Your drivers are excellent. They do slap my hand occasionally. Um, where yard waste and construction waste are differentiated. Real easy question. We moved here a year ago from Delaware. I knew we could recycle there, but going to the milk cartons that have a recycle stamp on them. Here in Winter Park, can we recycle the cardboard milk cartons?
Yes, you can.
Clean them out.
Yeah, just some water in there.
Yeah, and if I could leave everybody with one thought before we leave, and I know that Alan and Regina will be right behind me, is anything's got a battery in it, and Alan mentioned it. If it's rechargeable, make sure that that doesn't end up in the garbage.
Yeah.
Even those little vape pens, anything like that. You can take those to the household hazardous waste collection event. You can take it to the e-recyclers, but man, they are horrible to the collection industry.
Let me comment on that.
Horrible.
If you want to see what a vape pen battery will do to a garbage truck, I got one sitting in the yard at our fleet yard. That they will catch a truck on fire in a New York minute. Let me tell you, and when you catch a garbage truck on fire, it takes a while to put it out. So
It's like an explosion
it is
on the
It is.
highway.
And, yeah, it's literally you dump it out on the ground if you can. That's the thing. So.
Oh,
I do have one question for the waste management representative about textiles. Just in regard to local community members and potential small business owners that are local to Orlando and Winter Park. I'm just curious if the textile recycling division is going to be entirely within waste management, or waste management is looking for people that are interested as well, like the O-Town representative or like Urbany to like be cooperating with you guys.
Yeah, we're always looking to partner. I'm always quick to admit there's things we do well and things we don't do so well. So if I can find folks that are strong in those areas. So we do have a national relationship we announced a couple months ago working with Goodwill. So we'll actually have Goodwill people on site at some of our facilities sorting out kind of that cream of the crop material. So happy to connect and figure out if there's ways we can work together on this stuff. Absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah.
all right. So thank you all for being here. I hope you got a lot out of this. Again, if you have any questions that leave your brain after you exit here, please find us. Find me at citywinterpark.org under natural resources and sustainability. And the sustainability manager, my name is Sarah Miller. I have a great team. Coco, raise your hand in the back. She's our sustainability specialist. She's been with us since October. She graduated in last year, valedictorian of her class at Rollins. So we're so happy to have her. So please introduce yourself to her. And just plugging one more event, we have our Earth Day event coming up April 26th. Well, and please come because we'll have Waste Pro there. We have OECO coming, maybe. And we have O-Town definitely going to be there because he's going to collect all your food scraps from Track Shack for Run of the Trees. So, and then, yeah, Household Hazardous Waste this weekend. So thank you so much.